The situation in New York is getting ugly. Despite a winning record, two of the Rangers' star players are now actively being shopped. Their leadership is being called into question, and we also have some shocking comments from coach Peter Laviolette about the disappointing start to this season. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 70% of you who watch our videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you want to do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button. It's free and you get to stay up to date with everything New York Rangers. And it's been a bit of a mess the last few weeks and days. The way that the Rangers have been playing is not sustainable. We've been saying that. Fans have known that. And obviously it is showing right now in a big way. And obviously we had news drop yesterday that obviously the New York Rangers are shopping two of their best players or star players, most well-known players, however you want to put it. But obviously I think they're actively shopping a lot of other players as well. But obviously there's two players in Chris Kreider and Jacob Trouba who are a lot easier to move because of their modified no trade clauses. And now Larry Brooks posted an article yesterday, and this is from Ryan, that basically stated that the core has now overstayed their welcome. And I think a lot of Rangers fans, are being a bit reactionary at times, but I think this is warranted at this point, right? The core is getting older. They are playing worse. That is a fact of the matter. And we'll get into some of the stats in a bit anyway. But I thought this was incredibly interesting in the article that Trouba can be traded. A lot of people forget that. After last offseason, yes, things soured a little bit because they were trying to move him to the Detroit Red Wings. He, nixed that trade. It did not go through, And a lot of people forgot about that and just assumed that the Rangers were going to ride out this season with him because they were still expected to be a good team and put in good performances. They have not been doing that, so I believe things have changed, that they can move off of this player whenever they want, really, if another team is willing. Trouba can be traded, and if he refuses to go, he can be suspended and removed from the cap. This week is going to be juicy. Now, I think that is very interesting. I think that they're actively shopping Chris Kreider. I think that they're actively shopping Jacob Trouba. I think that they're actually probably putting more of a rush on Jacob Trouba than anything else because that frees up far more salary. And I think that they believe that they have defense help that can come in and help more so than Jacob Trouba at this point in time. Now, it's very interesting. Will they actually suspend him and remove him from the cap? I don't believe so. I don't think that they're going to go that route. I do think that they're going to try and move this player. Now, if he does refuse to go and there's no other, takers on the trade market that, aren't on his list, I could see something crazy like this happening to free up salary cap space to go out and get somebody who can make a difference. And I thought that was very interesting. And Larry Brooks, say what you want about him, but I mean, I think the time is now to put the foot down. I think it's time for everyone to put their foot down with this team because this team is expected to be much better. Half measures are not enough. And I think I tend to agree with that in this situation as well. And I mentioned in a video yesterday that I thought that actively shopping Chris Kreider and Jacob Trouba was more about just getting that out there to scare the team. I thought it was a wake-up call. I thought it was, a shot, right, to kind of get the team going. And how would they react against St. Louis? And Peter Bob, wrote an article on the same thing that, what we're hearing about the Rangers obviously could be true. And I do believe that it is true, but I do think that at first it's Chris Drury throwing that out there so that the Rangers see it and they kind of have this bit of a wake-up call and start playing better. Because this is still a really good team on paper. We know what they're capable of. They are not playing well right now. So it was a pretty loud message. But clearly from Phil as well, it did not get across. It did not get across. That was a incredibly poor performance last night against the St. Louis Blues. I would argue that the Rangers haven't been in any games that they played in the last 3 games. The last 3 games they've been horrible. They have not been in any of those games, and it's not working. A shake-up could be imminent, and it could be warranted for the New York Rangers. This could absolutely be on the way. And I wanted to get into some quotes from Peter Laviolette and some of the other players as well on the Rangers because they are pretty interesting and add some insight. This is about last night specifically from Peter Laviolette in the game against the St. Louis Blues. You would have hoped that they would have had some jump in their game after hearing that, two of their, Chris Kreider is the longest tenured Ranger at this point, and you hear that he might be traded because you're struggling. You would think that you would start to pick it up and put in a good performance. They did not do that. And from Peter Laviolette, we're giving up too much. There's no question. And he went on to say that he didn't like the response after New York gave up the first goal in the third. That's the time to dig in, and I feel like that was the time that the team folded in on itself. I feel like, that is not the response that you want from your team, a team that's supposed to be a top team in the league. And this is from Braden Schneider as well. We have really high expectations in here. Our goal is the ultimate goal, and we have a team that we think can get it done, and every guy in here thinks that we can do that, and that's why it's so disappointing right now. We're gripping the sticks a little tighter than we need to be, and we're just trying to force things a little too much. I just think that we need to go out there and make sure that we're doing what we need to do to get a win. And when, in saying that, and obviously what I take from that is, you got to do the small things correctly. If you continue to do that, things will improve. If you pay closer attention to detail, things should improve. But I think that's the whole problem with the Rangers. And it's not just the attention to detail, it's the work ethic. They just don't look like they want to try. They do not look like they have any interest in winning these games. And again, last night, and it results in a goal, and I have to point it out, Mika Zibanejad, this is just not an NHL play. It's not hard enough. You have to put it around the boards harder. You put Jacob Trouba in a terrible spot, who again, Jacob Trouba had a not great game, had a terrible game, we'll call it that. You're putting that guy in a tough position with a play like that, a soft play off the boards like that. It's the attention to detail things. They're not paying attention to detail. They're just not. Those are the little things. If you don't have that in your game, nothing else is going to follow. The defense is going to fall apart. You're not going to find offense. It has been brutal, and it's the top players doing that. And when I say top players, I mean the highest paid players, because your top players right now, let's call it what it is Will Cooley and maybe Capo Caco at this point, who's forced to play center for the first time ever last night because they're shaking up the lines. And Will Cooley, I'm not understanding why Will Cooley, the best player on the Rangers right now, because he is absolutely the best player, and again, 2 goals last night, and the only reason they were kind of in that game, he's playing with Mika Zibanejad, who's been struggling, and Brett Berard, who was just called up, and I want to touch on him a little bit at the end of this video. Why is he playing with a rookie called up from the AHL and a guy who's struggling right now? I don't understand that from Peter Laviolette exactly. I could understand that you're trying to get Zibanejad going, so play him with the best player. But why, he should be playing with other guys who are going right now. Maybe play him with Kreider. And again, we'll get into some trade stuff in a different video, but Chris Kreider, I do believe that they shouldn't trade him, but I feel like it's just the dynamic of the team and the salary cap structure with the team that they might have to. They might have to at this point, but I don't believe that they should trade him, and it's going to be really hard for New York Rangers fans to accept that. And he's one of the leaders in the room. And speaking of leaders, Peter Laviolette had something to say about the top guys as well, the highest paid players, the leaders in the room. He said, we need to be better. Everyone needs to be better inside the room. It's not good enough what we're doing. I don't think anybody is going to sit here and say it was good enough. No matter what question you want to ask, it's got to be better. It's 3 games in a row. At least he's self-aware here, because obviously we can all see that the last 3 games have been terrible. It's 3 games in a row where we're playing to a level and a standard that is not us and not what we work to be, not what we want to be. It's got to be better. Everyone has to be better. Now, it's one thing to say it and one thing to put it in motion. The team has got to go going here. Again, I do not believe it's the coach. I think it's personnel at this point, honestly, especially the last couple games. And when you really take a step back, because I mentioned it in a previous video, that it could be maybe the coach, right? And people and fans are saying that maybe it's the coach. When you take a step back and look at it, this is the second really good head coach that this core has had and not been able to get it done. And now they're kind of going backwards. This regular season is going in the wrong direction. They're continuously giving up 40+ shots, right? And making these really soft plays all over the ice. And it's from your top players, or the guys that you'd hope are your top players. So this is a real issue for the New York Rangers right now. But before we wrap up the video, I did want to touch on something positive. And again, Rangers fans are letting them hear it right now. People are not happy. The core is imploding at any ounce of adversity. It usually does in the playoffs. We've seen it, especially when the physicality gets amped up. And we're seeing it right now, right? They're relying on Shesterkin and Jonathan Quick far too much right now. And honestly, those guys are the only reason that their record is what it is right now. And they're actually in a playoff spot, in a wild card spot. But this team should be a lot better and a lot higher in the standings than they are. The last thing I wanted to touch on, and it was a feel-good story, that Brett Berard got into his NHL debut last night, and he got his first NHL point, an assist on a Will Cooley goal, and he was super excited to make his NHL debut. So that was pretty cool. This is a guy who should be a very good player for the Rangers in the future. Obviously, he was called up, but he's going to be sent back to Hartford at some point soon. Just called up because of injuries and that, but no, I thought that was a feel-good story. Gets his first NHL point in his first NHL game. He's going to be a really good player, and that is fun. But let me know in the comments what you think of the Rangers' play as of late. It has not been good, especially soft plays like this. Let me know what you think and who should be traded. Obviously, they're very limited in that, but do you think a shakeup is warranted and imminent? I think that the shakeup is coming because clearly they're not able to find it in the room. But let me know what you think in the comments, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.